KTN News. Get the whole story.
How do you keep your toilets clean?
I use normal detergent and bleach for washing.
The detergent and bleach cleanless can leave behind yellowness, rust, and germs.
Harpic's 10 times better cleaning compared to regular detergents and bleach, and kills 99.9% illness-causing germs in your toilet, including the COVID-19.
When you hear about Sarit Centre, what comes to your mind?
I want to do my shopping, and I make sure my kids are playing, they can have a meal. I'll get everything under one roof. Your city, I'll get everything here. Okay, then I'll come here. Someone might say, oh, I come to Sarit, for example, right? To pay my utility bill.
But you know that 40 years ago, this was bare land, literally bare.
We opened the doors in 1983. Manekla Rugani, so my dad's co-founder, right? So went to UK, came back, and they discussed, let's create the first enclosed shopping center in Eastern Central Africa.
This Saturday on Globe Traction, we sit down with Sarit Shah, the CEO for Sarit Centre, to break it all down for us on how it all started. Make sure you join us this Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Kenyan time, only on KTN News. I'll be your host, Pasil Telewa.
Inaitwa Radio Zaidi ya Radio Maisha, tuko mbele pamoja. Right, kama ulivyosikia hapo, nitakuwa na Mwananguze kila siku ya Jumatatu mpaka Ijumaa ndani ya Radio Maisha kuanzia saa 12 asubuhi mpaka saa 4. Naitwa Solomon Zuli, au sio? Na kuanzia sasa itakuwa ni Zuli na Sugar Boy.
Are you earning income in only one currency? At Standard Chartered Priority Banking, we have the expertise to connect you to global fund houses for investment opportunities in foreign currency bonds and mutual funds, giving you returns in hard currency. We will set up a foreign currency account that receives your investment returns. Tracking your investments is at the click of a button. Our relationship managers are backed by investment and insurance advisors and ready to serve you. Email prioritybanking.ke@sc.com.
KTN News. Get the whole story.
Well, it is Friday, and you know what comes with Friday? Biz Charts. Well, today I have a heavy panel. I have, of course, Mentoria lead economist that is Ken Gishinga. Good to see you, Ken. And we also have Dr. Alex Kamau, who is the managing partner at Minor Kamau and Associate, and also, is a lecturer. He does quite a number of things. Glad to have you. And today we'll be talking quite a number of issues, reflecting on what is happening to this country, to be honest. Because we've come from somewhere. We are somewhere. And we are heading somewhere. But in all these decisions and the way everything is panning out, we need to reflect thoroughly as a nation. Right? That's why, actually, I take a look at art. Because some of us go to the art world to sort of get lost into it and forget about it. But when it comes to art reflecting society, I would like you to listen to these lyrics carefully.
Figures zinashtua man, check our economy. Kila mtu after numbers like Deuteronomy. Sometimes ni likes ama price go hike sometimes ni views na flights to Dubai Numbers zinashtua pia zina validation. Cheki vile zinabonga kila election. Hakuna focus on who has the vision, ni who carries numbers like long division. Longs from UK for some to get paid na kizungu fiti but we need English aid Mother nangangana na 2 bills a day. Na gava inapoteza 2 bills a day. It's like 60 mil, 50 mil, 30 mil 20 likes, what the price, check it rise tunacheza na numbers tunacheza na numbers It's like 50 mil, 60 mil, 30 mil 20 likes, what the price, check it rise tunacheza na numbers tunacheza na numbers Account balance gani zero, huna kiburi na ego. Vitu material hujua kureveal real people. Mini kikafunga nitabaki vile niko. And I'm sorry kai kubambi niko raised divo. From CEO na hata wachina wa treat equal. Na hii mziki complicated but I'm still simple. Index finger na middle finger ni peace symbols. Ukidrop the first finger uta receive fimbo. Na kila line ni rido, classes ni rich ama poor kuna middle. Some grew up with little. Life ya kustruggle waka rise tuki mchezo. Saia wako humble.
Right there we have Trevor Fortel, Ranja Mistari saying numbers. Numbers do matter. And that's why we'll be dissecting those numbers, because quoting those lyrics that, Gava loses 2 bills a day. Now mother kona 2 bills to pay. 2 bills, 2 billion a day. Remember that figure? Anyway, I just love art history. My name is Nokip Kumbo and welcome to Business Today. We start us off with matters flights and non-stop flights between Kenya and Paris. Increase, actually, we've seen a number of this frequency being increased. According to the French national carrier, it has announced that an increase in daily non-flights between Paris and Nairobi from 4 up to 7, effective 15th of June this year. Speaking during Air France anniversary celebration, Air France General Manager for East and Southern Africa, Nigeria and Ghana, Maurice Van der Ham, noted that the route expansion is going to benefit French and Kenyan companies, especially in horticulture, pharmaceuticals, and other businesses that depend on air transport.
Discovered as a destination of tourism, but the other way around also. People from Kenya wanted to discover again Europe and the US. That was for us, of course, a very nice development that we could see. But not only, actually after the Kenyan elections, we saw also a nice uptick again in the business travel. So just to give you some numbers, so I think in terms of passengers in 2022, we saw, compared to the period before COVID, about 85% of passengers coming back. So 15% less. So the fact that we see opportunity to do this, to disconnect Tanzania from those 2 flights per week to have the 7 non-stop vice versa product, is actually due to the growth that we see and the potential that we see in the Kenyan market. We're still bringing innovation to the Kenyan market. So as we recently communicated also for our trade agents, we are professionalizing the systems that we have. We're replacing our old Agent Connect system with a new system which is called Business Solutions, which will give all the opportunities for our trade agents to sell us best. They have all the information about our network, about our policies, about the products that we offer. And it allows them to transfer that message to their customers to sell Air France-KLM the best as they can.
All right, and right now let's turn back to matters manufacturing and changes that we're seeing, especially in the cement sector, that is construction, where Bamburi actually appointed Mr. Mohit Kapoor as the new group chief executive officer effective 1st April 2023, and this is subject to regulatory approvals. Mr. Kapoor succeeds Mr. Sadiq Hassani, who served as the company's CEO since his appointment in February 9th, 2018, and he ended his 5-year tenure on March 31st. He ends that on March 31st, 2023. This gentleman, the new CEO, actually is an electrical engineer, a marketer and supply chain expert by profession, and he was the country CEO of Holcim, Qatar, prior to his appointment. And with that, of course, this particular change is quite critical when you talk about manufacturing and turning the tide. In the cement sector, Bamburi, the way it's been performing, can it do better? That's why we're seeing these changes. But moving on swiftly, let's take a look at matters to do with intra-Africa trade, which is very critical. The Ghana Export Promotion Authority, GEPA, has today opened its new office in Kenya, enabling the organization to better support businesses in the East Africa region. Ali Honor reporter Apollo James was at the launch and had a conversation with the Ghana High Commissioner, His Excellency Dampi Bediako Asare, on Ghana's fast-moving consumer goods like chocolate and why they have a chance in the Kenyan market. This is what he had to say.
As for venturing the Kenyan market, it's not just now. If you right from independence, Ghana has always believed in the unity of Africa. That is why our first president, on the eve of our independence, made a statement that said that Ghana's independence was meaningless unless it was linked up to the total liberation of the entire continent. That in itself was a very powerful statement of our belief and conviction that African can only survive if we come together. So Ghana's agenda in terms of, as far as Africa is concerned, has always been an integrated continent that is able to reduce poverty, provide jobs for everybody, and deal with issues of peace and security in the continent. So it is not new that it's not a new agenda that Ghana is now trying to. We have always been making the effort. But we are fortunate with the introduction of the African Continental Free Trade Area that has so much potential for the entire African continent, and we want to take advantage of that. Fortunately, Ghana is privileged to host the Secretariat of the CFTA, and therefore, seeing the potential, we think that let's start with countries that are ready. So that is why if you look at the GTI, the Guided Trade Initiative under the AFTA, Ghana is a participant, Kenya is a participant, and 6 other countries, about 8 countries in all. And we believe that let's commence the trading under the AFTA. And once we succeed doing this, it will be an inspiration for the other African continents to also join and make sure that the AFTA story is not just a Ghanaian story, it becomes a success story for the entire Africa.
My last question is, you've talked about reciprocity, where the Kenyan tea can go into the Ghanaian market. You come at a time where our own cabinet secretary, Moses Kuria, had said that Kenya wants to venture more into export rather than import. What do you think about that?
When you trading is exchange of goods and services. So it will be in the mutual interest of both Kenya and Ghana that we open up our market space for products coming from each other's country. Let's harmonize our regulations to make sure that the Ghana side will facilitate the entry of Kenyan products into our market, and the vice versa, that the Kenyan side will also open up the market, liberalize the market, and allow and also facilitate the entry into the Kenyan market also of Ghanaian products. So I think no country can just survive on one aspect when we talk of export and import. You can't survive with only the export. There may be some products that you don't have. For instance, Kenya, you don't produce chocolate. Ghana produces chocolate. So when you need chocolate, you can't say that you are only exporting. You always import chocolate from Ghana.
From matters intra-Africa trade, let's talk this challenge where we've seen a lot of people, especially the market, complaining that students who are leaving our learning institutions are not ready for the market. Now, Isuzu East Africa has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Kenya Coast National Polytechnic to launch a partnership program that will upskill students to global automotive industry standards. The partnership program will see the institution's best automotive students onboarded to a one-year course in theory and practical skills in automotive repairs and maintenance tasks before being deployed within the Isuzu network.
We are struggling with the holistic development of individual mental health challenges and all that. How can we mentor them so we get a wholesome person, because we need a wholesome individual to really give us value in the workplace. So those are some of the other elements, soft elements that we need to engage in to make sure by the time we get them, we're good to go. But we are really proud about this partnership, and we are going to make sure we collaborate so we can be able to provide the internship, we can be able to employ, we can able also to get our other partners in the same sector to consume some of the students that will be coming out of this institution.
We are confident that this partnership will not only grow our industry, but also develop tomorrow's automotive experts. This is yet another significant milestone for Isuzu East Africa.
On to the retail sector, Naivas supermarket chain has launched a special package aimed at reducing prices for its clientele, dubbed the Kikapu Kibonge. Naivas marketing manager Willie Kimani says the launch is timed to coincide with both the Easter and Ramadan festive seasons. According to Kimani, the launch is to benefit Kenyans, especially during these difficult economic times.
Ladies and gentlemen,
wow. Time's been tough, and prices of maize are just on the roof. We're talking about 6,500 shillings a bag. So it's tough to make a commitment from a position of RRP, but we are always here to talk to Naivas to see how we use our own money as suppliers to be able to subsidize whatever prices that are in the market. So it's the commercial teams from both entities to be able to sit and be able to give an exciting offer to our customers.
As Naivas, we are going to the actual basket and saying every week we shall be having, as we go to our stores, orange sticker, and also in our displays where you'll find very deep offers of key commodity items. What you're doing is making sure that every Kenyan is able to save. You're able to go. We want to be referenced that yes, indeed, prices are actually lower because of the prices that you're actually seeing in the market, because they're actual way lower prices. What does this entail? It entails us giving away even our own margin for the sake of Kenyans during these tough times. It's not easy. We do understand that there are very many macroeconomic issues that are actually driving this particular environment. But for us, the question that was there was, what will we do?
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, it's time for drum rolls. I shall be having a band in studio every Friday so that when I say drum rolls, they roll the drums, because it's that time for Biz Chat Weekly. And we have, of course, on my immediate left, Dr. Alex Kamau and also Ken Gishinga. Gentlemen, good to see you. Ken, how's your week been starting with you?
It's been a great week. I'm glad the rains are here. So we hope for better produce, which drives the economy.
Definitely. Dr.
Yes.
First time on the show?
It is my first time.
You feel confident?
Yes, I am comfortable. Thank you for making me feel comfortable.
Beautiful.
Yes.
You know, I was looking at your eyes, whether you You are the man on Monday, just in case tear gas after effects. But that's part of our discussion today. Because, I mean, the country is coming from somewhere. And now we are somewhere, and you have a goal where you're supposed to be at normal arc of the story. Ken, for starters, we were recovering from COVID-19. Then Russia-Ukraine happened. And now drought also is happening concurrently. And again, the public debt. And again, the transition from one government to the other. So all these sort of storms that bring economic upheaval were on high gear. And then here we are. Talk to me, where are we coming from? Because it's quite a dark place. Is it getting darker or brighter?
You're absolutely right. Indeed, the past is prologue. And if you look at the last 3 years, specifically on that Friday, March 13th, 2020, when COVID was officially announced to be in Kenya, I think in the fullness of time, that will be considered to be a watershed moment, because that's a time really businesses that had not been doing very well before, but really started straining. So we were COVID from 2020 into 2021, and as soon as we were out of that, the election fever began. And you know, our election cycles in Kenya are very divisive, very intense. So that also made investors postpone a lot of economic activity. Then you've added the third span in the work of the drought, really, that has been pervasive. So in a nutshell, it's fair to say that the cost of living has been very high. Today, inflation is at 9.5%. And what governments have been trying to do is to raise interest rates. So on the monetary policy side, we've been seeing the CBK raising interest rates, which makes the cost of credit very expensive. But even on the treasury side, we've seen rises in VAT, so more fiscal tightening, budget cuts. So in terms of money in circulation, that has really gone down. So now the events of last week was the final nail, in the coffin, in the sense that really you're talking about an economy that's operating on one engine, coming to a standstill. So it's a very tough time for business, and I think as policymakers, we need to see a bit more imagination and innovation.
Okay. Dr. Kamau.
Yes, no.
Looking at the way we responded to all those nails, for what can cause the final nail, which I don't think it is. Hopefully we'll have a resurrection moment. But the way we responded to that, we saw subsidies kicking in. A lot of mitigation to make sure that the mwananchi is cushioned. And then we had a change of philosophy. The government coming in and saying, we won't do subsidies, for example. We will try and recover organically, which will be very painful. Are we having trouble transitioning with the policy response in the turmoil that we've experienced in the past and our current realities?
Yes, we are having challenges because actually when subsidies were introduced, the regime by then was not very sure, that had not even researched to find out whether it was a sustainable approach or a technique. So it was just a matter of time that they were to realize that the government did not have enough resources to support that kind of a subsidy. Because what I see is like when COVID came, even leave alone the issues of economy, me as a person, for people who had chronic diseases, they were the most affected by COVID because their resistance level was very weak. So for us as a country, when COVID came, it came at a point when we were already struggling economically. The country was highly indebted, and because of that, we didn't have the ability to caution ourselves from the adverse effects of COVID. So now, the government of that day, what it did, in a way to protect Kenyans, it introduced a subsidy. Though for the issue of fuel subsidy, there has always been a misinterpretation because it was not really a subsidy for fuel. It was a way of ensuring that the price for fuel is stabilized. So the government would say that we want the price of fuel to remain at 120. So whenever the government imports fuel at a lower price, it does not do what? It does not lower that price.
Okay.
But whenever it imports at a higher price, then it uses the resources that it had saved when it had imported at a lower price to again ensure that the oil price is stabilized.
Maybe it's just it's semantics. Sometimes when you mention the word subsidy,
yes,
antennas go up, but you can call it stabilization fund as they used to call it.
Yes.
And I know that did happen.
Yes.
Yeah, but the hard economic times that a lot of people are going, as you mentioned, Ken, the high inflation, the high cost of living is still an issue. Even when you see this mandamano, one of the key issues they mentioned there, it's high cost of living, high food prices. We need it to calm down. Now, the tools that we have to sort of manage this situation. We've seen the government, for example, with the dollar situation that we've experienced, which was becoming quite a challenge for our manufacturers, and we are net importer, we need the dollars. So they say we move to G2G framework, for example, to ease that burden. Do you think the response and the tools that we have, we are utilizing them the right way to make sure that at least there is a level of stability, economically speaking?
Well, in terms of the traditional tools we have, that's under monetary policy, really trying to raise interest rates to curb inflation. The only problem with the monetary policy tools is they address what we call demand pull inflation and not supply side inflation. And what we have in Kenya is supply side, where you have shocks from Russia, Ukraine, global fuel prices. That's what's driving up. So in terms of what the CBK can do, it's very limited. And I believe Professor Ndongo had spoken about that a few weeks ago, some time back. But even in terms of what we can do in terms of productivity, yes, there's room for innovation. I think those G2G arrangements are there. What Kenya is trying to do with UAE, what Kenya is trying to do with Pakistan in terms of the tea. So there's room for innovation. And we do have smart people behind these offices who can come up with innovative tools. My only fear is, are we moving into productivity? Because at the end of the day, an economy grows when there's more productivity. And productivity means whether it's in your agriculture, you're growing more. And I'm not seeing enough evidence that productivity gains are coming up. And I don't think we are harnessing all our factors of production, land, labor, capital, to produce more. And in fact, I think we're importing a lot more right now, and that's why we are feeling this. So I think policy-wise, there's still a lot more that needs to be done.
Okay. Dr. Kamau, that productivity element of it seems to be very critical, but also on a similar breadth,
yes,
we have quite a challenge because, for example, food. We are buying a lot of food from outside. Just the other day, we saw the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary saying there is challenge with getting maize in the international market. So Kenyans should eat more rice.
Yes.
Okay? And you speak to my mother, most of the evenings I do talk to her. I tell her I've had rice for supper. And that is, it's almost insulting because you are a man. You should eat ugali. Yeah, we've been told that we should eat rice. I mean, and we are rain-based and rain-backed agriculture. The response, is it to pray for rains, or is there a better way?
I think the advice by the Ministry of Agriculture is a solid one, because there's no reason why all of us, we have put so much preference on maize flour. That and in Kenya, we have we are privileged that we have a variety of food items that we can buy. We can use even cassava, we can do bananas, we can do, as you have said, rice. But there's this kind of assumption, or this kind of a culture that we do what we can only. The best food is the one that is cooked using maize flour.
Yes.
So I think that culture needs to change for us to be able to survive these hard economic times. And as you have rightly said, so the Minister for Agriculture went across Africa, and there is a limited supply of maize.
Yes.
So he came back and said, guys, we don't have a choice. We have, but luckily they were able to bring a lot of tons, huge quantities of rice. So they say, now we have not been able to get maize, rice is here.
Yes.
So in the meantime, that's a good way. But in the long run, we need to, the way the government is doing, to subsidize on production.
Yes.
It makes the cost of fertilizer to be cheap, to be affordable, so that at the end of the day, people are able to access fertilizer at a reasonable cost, and that will end up making the production and the supply of food commodities to increase. And by doing so, the prices of those items again come down.
All right, gentlemen, of course, that particular guidance, it seems it comes all the way from the top office, because we normally say mtukufu rice. That's why we need to eat more rice, That's just on a light note, gentlemen. Because you guys are too serious. You're saying final nail on the coffin and whatnot. But we want to take a short break. Ken, Daktari, when we come back, we want to take a look at the balance between monetary policy and some of the interventions that we've seen, especially in an environment that is not very stable. How should we react with these tools that we have? All right? Let's take a short break right here on Business Today. We'll return with more.
KTN News. Get the whole story. Your Wealth in 90 Seconds, brought to you by Standard Chartered Priority Banking.
I'm Paul Njoki, Head of Affluent Banking and Wealth Management, Kenya and East Africa.
Have you explored other investment ideas in your legacy planning?
Most people use traditional assets like land and real estate as the core pillar of their legacy plan. These assets tend to be illiquid. At Standard Chartered Priority Banking, we have the expertise to help you invest in Kenya government bonds that earn return of up to 13% per annum, and foreign currency bonds and mutual funds that earn return of up to 10% in hard currency. This will help you, your children and your grandchildren earn return now and in the future with minimum hassle. My team of relationship managers, investment advisors, and insurance advisors are here to serve you and help you achieve your life goals. Welcome to Priority Banking today.
Join Standard Chartered Priority Banking today. Email prioritybanking.ke@sc.com. Wealth expertise made to matter.
If you want to be free and live like a child again, why stress about germs? If you must worry, then worry about winning. Why worry about germs? When you come home, bring tales and stories. Why bring in germs?
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
Maz, yani mko mtaani zubaing just like that? It's time to play Instameter and you could win up to 10 million shillings instantly. The game is quite easy. Simply dial *239# to play. Don't just zuba. Play Instameter today and get a chance to win millions.
Over 18s only. Gaming is addictive. Play responsibly. This message has been authorized by the BCLB. License number 880.
Some departments have been taking it as if it is optional and not a requirement. And then they walk away from executing performance contracts, believing that they are exempt. We want to make it very clear to the Kenyan people that performance contracting is going to be anchored in law so that it is a legal requirement.
KTN News. Get the whole story.
Welcome back to Business Today. Today, actually, the kicks are on check. All right? Look at those kicks, because right here on Biz Chart, we make sure that we are walking the talk. All right? But that's just a little bit of poetry right there. Some people look at just the way I'm dressed. It's a Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take it a little bit easy, okay? But even as we take it easy, let us make sure that we're analyzing key issues. So inflation right now at 9.2%. It's going up. The Fed is raising its interest rates. So that means that the dollar will keep on getting scarcer and scarcer by the day. This G2G framework for fuel importation can. They say that it will almost remove, because fuel takes 35% of the forex on a monthly basis. Looking at this solution, is this sustainable?
Well, I think on the positive side, it's going to reduce the dollar demand. And dollar for fuel importation is one of the big items in terms of our import bill. The problem, though, it also depends on the shilling exchange currency, because what they'll be paying will be the spot rate after those 6 months. And the likely situation is, we are paying for fuel maybe worth at 130, but if the shilling slides to 135, for example, in 6 months, you end up paying more. So it really depends on the outlook on the shilling. And the outlook, as you say, is bearish because of what you said around interest rates in the Fed. Diaspora is not sending what it used to send in terms of dollars. So I think the outlook for dollar is not very strong, and that might affect the shilling. So net, you feel whatever you're gaining from reduced dollar demand, you're losing on the side of just a weaker exchange rate and having to pay more shillings.
Yeah. I don't know, Dr. Kamau, what do you think about that?
Yes, my colleague Ken has said it. Actually, the issue of the currency risk has not been removed from this government-to-government kind of arrangement that the government of Kenya has entered with the Saudi Arabian government. Because at the end of the day, what the mechanics of that agreement is that the Kenyan government will import fuel from the Saudi Arabian government on credit. Then from there, it will distribute to the 4 oil marketers. That is, we have the Vivo, we have the Rubies, the Total, and the rest. Then the Kenyan government will sell to them on credit. Once they sell now to the motorist, the four oil marketers, at that point, that's when they will pay the Kenyan government the money that they have sold the fuel, of course after removing their profit margin. At that point, 6 months later, if the Kenyan government had imported the exchange rate of the Kenyan currency vis-a-vis the dollar was at 130, then maybe 6 months later it is 135 or 140. The Kenyan oil marketers and distributors will not be affected by that currency risk. It is now the Kenyan government that will top for the difference. So in some way, the government is providing for oil subsidy, because it is saying that we as the government will cushion you from this movement of the currency.
Okay.
That when the Kenyan shilling depreciates against the dollar, don't be scared, because we as the government, we will do what? We will take care of that. Because by the time the government is paying for that fuel, because it had already bought it on credit, as we have already consumed the fuel.
Because I was listening to Churchill, the CS Energy, is appearing before the Parliament's Energy Committee.
Yes.
Yeah, and he noted that actually the depreciation, first of all, he noted that the risk is not as high from where they sit. Okay? And secondly, noted that in case of any depreciation or appreciation, sort of any change, it will have sort of a trickle-down effect to the pump. Okay? So, for example, if the shilling appreciates against the dollar, it means we are sort of, fuel will be slightly cheaper. Yeah? They say that trickle-down effect. But I'm thinking, Ken, in this regard, if because they're very positive that this mop-up and what is happening in the States will not sort of impact the market. Things will cool down. It won't get worse. And you saw even President Ruto noting that people should not fear because our shilling will get strong against the dollar with time. The way we are seeing things, Mr. Powell is not looking back. Even with the issue that we saw with some banks there, people are hoping that will impact on the decision of the Fed rates. But that seemed not to have had any impact.
Well, I disagree. I think it did have an impact because had it not been for the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, possibly the interest rate hike could have been 50 basis points. What they went for was 25 basis points, and they said that it is a matter of concern.
Yes.
And it should be. Actually, if you go back 100 years ago to the Great Depression, one of the reasons the Great Depression occurred was because of very tight monetary policy. The Fed reduced the amount of money in circulation. So the Fed is concerned, but they also believe inflation needs to be fought. So I think they found a middle ground at 25 basis points. I think it's fair to say that they did consider that.
Okay.
And that will definitely affect the supply of dollars. But also look at the traditional sources of dollars in this market. If you look at diaspora remittances, the February numbers came quite low. If you look at our tea exports, already tea with Pakistan, we have a G2G arrangement with Pakistan. So the dollars we might have been expecting, already might not be coming. If you look at the deal between the rice and the tea between Pakistan and Kenya. If you look at tourism, yes, I saw the story about Air France having daily flights, but Europe is heading into a recession. So you have to ask yourself, are there going to be very many European tourists in a time of a recession? So that those numbers may be quite subdued. So the supply side tells me that it's quite shaky.
Yes.
So to make a confident argument for a strong shilling, I think would be, for me, I think would be quite unlikely.
Okay.
I still expect a steady depreciation. And also CBK's reserves are below the 4 months requirement. So it tells you it's still a tough time. So to be able to say that the shilling will appreciate, I think it's a very tough case to make.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people speak by faith. Faith seems to be a very important element even in government. We hope in the next 6 months things will get better. We ask you, how do you hope? What substantiates the hope? And you're like, no, it's just hope,
Yes.
But Dr. Now, another as you mentioned, another nail.
Yes.
We've seen this element of demonstration now starting next week, Monday and Thursday.
Yes.
Deputy President noted that particular day, I think the country lost 1 billion shillings.
Yes.
Or was it, actually it was 2 billion shillings. Sakaja noted that revenues foregone for that particular day is 30 million shillings. First of all, just looking at the intention and the points that are being raised by the Raila team.
Yes.
High cost of living, it's there. These other issues about, reforms in the IPC.
Yes.
As a business show, we'll just look at the economics. There is validity to that.
Yes.
Is this the way to effect change?
Good question, Noah. Maybe if I can just touch a bit on what my colleague has handled, the issue of increase of interest rates in the USA.
Yes.
Now, whenever the Fed Reserve increases the interest rates, what actually that means is that the dollar becomes stronger. And the foreign investors who are in developing countries like Kenya will now prefer to invest in the US because now the US is giving a better rate of return and the currency there is quite stable as opposed to the developing country where the exchange rate is very volatile. So, and because of that, we have seen even the market capitalization in the Nairobi Securities Exchange get eroded. At some point, we had the market capitalization in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. It was about 2.7 trillion. Today, it is below 2 trillion. And the reason that has happened is because we are experiencing capital flight. That people and most of foreign investors, they are feeling that Kenya is not a stable economy at the moment because of the various macroeconomic factors that we are struggling with, from the issue of inflation and all that. In terms of now the way the Kenya is trying to cushion itself from the capital flight, whereby the foreigners are moving capital from Kenya to other developed countries, is now even our CBK, the Central Bank of Kenya, is trying to raise the interest rates so that it can be able now to entice and to attract foreign investors to come and invest with us. For instance, the recently rolled out treasury bond it had an interest rate of about 14.5%. So the reason the government has taken that direction is to try to attract foreign investors to come and invest here.
Okay.
However, once they invest here, they are not comfortable because whatever the gains they will have accrued will be eroded by the time they are doing what? They are converting. They are doing the conversion from the Kenyan currency to the year currency because of the worsening exchange rate in terms of Kenya against the hard currencies.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, we are losing.
Okay.
Now, coming to the question that you have asked about the issue of maandamano and the effect that we are experiencing as an economy. Yes, it is true that the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, said that we lost about 2 billion that particular day. And he said it is likely to be the situation every other time there is maandamano. If you look, if you say 2 billion multiplied by 360 or 350 days in a year, that translates to about 700 billion in a year. So the question is, we are losing 700 billion vis-a-vis what amount? Because now that takes us to the question of how much do we have as GDP, the GDP in a year. We have a GDP of about 10 trillion. We have a GDP of about 10 trillion. And so losing 700 billion out of 10 trillion,
it's just two days in a way. Though it doesn't
yes.
like make
yes.
The situation better.
Yes.
But I think it's a balance between the price that you're willing to pay to see a better country, for example. From one side, they're saying that we need to go to the streets so that you can work on these things. But on the government side, there is the reality that this government has entered at a very shaky time, Ken. And I'm thinking about the best way to impact change. I don't know, because it's a convergence of issues, Ken, to be honest. There is the social side that we're seeing with the mandamanos addressing the economic challenges. Is it time that we sit on the table and sort of just lay down long-term solutions so that we don't have to go through this every other 5 years or so?
Well, I mean, if you talk about the theory of change, I mean, there's different layers that can be touched on to be able to improve our society. I believe the best way is when professionals focus on their key things. I think economists should focus on principles of a better economy. I think politicians should look at better philosophical. The problem with our politics is no philosophy. When you go to the US or the UK, people talk about big governments, small government, Republican, Tories. But in Kenya, we don't really have sort of like philosophies that guide. And I think our political parties now need to have philosophies so that even if somebody retires, for example, and you see that actually in Tanzania, when a president, in the event of a demise of a president, the person who comes after is able to continue with the strategy, and you see that in other countries. In Kenya, we don't have that. So I think political philosophy is one, but I think for us as economists is, are we giving the best advice economically? Are we drawing from global examples? Are we always making this advice readily available to the people in politics, in policy making? So I think everybody has their lane, and everybody sort of has to be good at playing within their lane.
Okay. Briefly, because our time is running out, Dr. What should, the keyword is should here, okay? What should be done? And sometimes it's easier to give prescription when you're seated outside the fire. Give you should do this and that until you get there and you realize it's not as simple as it looks. But what do you think is the solution to the current economic upheavals that we're going through?
There are many things that should be done, but I will just talk about one thing, and this is we should have a situation whereby the government is agreeing with the opposition, so that we end up this issue of maandamano every other time. I'm not saying that maandamano is bad, but actually if we can have peaceful maandamano, then as opposed to hostile maandamano that is very destructive, because if we were to have peaceful maandamano, we might have the government even perhaps listening to the demands being tabled by the opposition about the reduction of tax rates and the issue of better corporate governance. So, but in the event that we don't have peaceful maandamano, I would encourage the two sides to have a sit down and agree on the way forward. Because the moment they continue fighting, the country is losing the investors' confidence of foreigners. And we continue to experience the capital flight that has happened for the last 1 year, whereby the NSE market capitalization has continued to be on a downward trial.
All right. Yes. Peace is very critical. Ken, I know you're passionate about monetary policy, and nothing is new under the sun, as they say. So such a situation, I'm pretty sure many other facets across the world, they've been in a similar situation. In terms of response from a policy perspective, what should we do?
Well, I think the role of government is to provide stability. Stability is key. And obviously the CBK will be announcing the monetary policy next week. And the goal is price stability. So obviously, I think they'll be trying to look at how do you reduce that inflation, bring it closer to that 5% target. But also fiscal policy, as Dr. Ria said, our taxes, we need to review so that it's not getting in the way of demand. It's not affecting the structure of demand. So I think government needs to provide stability. The private sector can provide innovation and momentum. And I think if you have that, then you have a winning team.
Stability. So peace and stability. That's quite critical, you know. It's a beautiful Friday, gentlemen. How has it been, by the way? Your first time being interviewed by an OG? No, I'm kidding. How's it been?
Yes, the experience, I can say it's awesome.
Okay.
And I believe we'll do more of this.
Definitely. Digging deep into, you are the professionals that Ken is talking about, that you should be able to do your thing. And I believe that is very important. I know next week you've spoken about the CBK, Monetary Policy Committee. They will be releasing some numbers that we'll be taking a keen look into. You've saying Europe is going into a recession, which is quite a concern, but the rains are back. So you guys are very bullish. The near future, near term. Let's talk 3 months.
Yes.
Are you very positive of it?
Not quite. I would hope to be positive, but the situation does not allow that. It is what we say, it will first get worse before getting better.
Okay.
Yes.
Ken?
Well, Kenya remains a country of immense potential. Every statistic points to that. Foreigners want to live in Kenya. Kenyans want to succeed in Kenya. But as Dr. said, we have some teething problems. I think we need to fix how our democracy works. We need to fix our politics so that our economics, we need an economic revolution in Kenya. We already have a political independence, but we don't have economic independence. That's why we are the mercy always of the IMF, the World Bank. So I think it's time the leaders come together, embrace dialogue, and talk about the economic liberation of Kenya and of Africa.
Wow, beautiful. Gentlemen, it's always good to talk to you guys on a Friday, and good to see you guys. Yeah, I know I've led the way today. I've worn sneakers to the show. I don't know, Ken, whether you'll be challenged to do something. And with that said, of course, can you just pan to the shoe again so that I can encourage Ken to relook his fashion sense? You see that one? Yes, that is called swag. All right, but it's been a good week. And gentlemen, I really appreciate Ken Gishinga, lead economist, Macroeconomics, and Dr. Alex Kamau, also an economist, managing partner at Maina Kamau and associate also. We appreciate your input. And right here on Business Today is where we put a full stop to this, yeah? And when you've worn good shoes, you want to stand up and walk. But I wouldn't do that. It's been a beautiful Friday, man. And have yourself a great weekend. Remember that Kenya is ours. So we have to be concerned about everything that goes on here. That's why we make sure that we speak about numbers and economics. While I'm Nokip Kimboy, have yourself a blessed weekend. I'm tempted to walk out to leave you guys here, but I won't do that. I'm a good horse. So up next we have Mbiu KTN. Stay tuned. Gentlemen, you guys are good?
KTN News. Get the whole story.
Wanafokafoka mmoja baada ya mwingine.
It's like this, nilikuwa hadiko kwenye kazi ya mjengo, kumbe wanasaka yule bude wa mapengo.
Kulahani ya rumba ikihanikiza katika gereza la JK Prison.
Mambo ni magumu,
hapa wafungwa wanadhihirisha ulimwengu kwamba mui huwa mwema.
Nakumbuka ni mama mzazi alivyonieleza, neni mambo ya dunia chungana nao yasikupige chenga.
Ala za muziki kama vile ngoma na gitaa ni nyenzo muhimu ya kufanikisha muziki yao kwa mahadi tofauti tofauti. Ni kwa sababu hii ndipo gereza hili kwa ushirikiano na studio ya Big Africa katika eneo la Rupa Fun and Fitness wameamua kuhusisha kwa mbinu ya kidijitali. Kutana na Mbosso, Samson Korir, David Wekesa, Steven Makoha na Kelvin Juma ambao ni masogoro wanaotikisa anga ya muziki.